So, topic today is bad apples, and this is Dr. Brooke Jacobs.
Hello, thank you guys. Thank you. There's a nice echo in here. That's really boisterous. Thank you guys. So thank you, Russ. Thank you for inviting me today. Thank you to EThOs for everything you guys do to boost the professional community and help us get trained and feel confident and capable in what we aim to do every day. So as Russ said, I'm Dr. Brooke Jacobs. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and the owner of Delve Health Consulting. So we are a consulting firm that assists businesses and systems in doing their work the healthiest they can. So we try to assist them in taking their good intentions around organizational wealth and turning those into evidence-based implementation. So how many times have you heard business owners, CEOs, directors say, we've tried this and it doesn't work. We've tried this and it doesn't work. We've tried this and it doesn't work. We've tried to do the opposite of what our staff is telling us and it still doesn't work. So people are either gonna show up and work the way we have it or they're just not gonna show up, I'm done. Delve comes in to help to say there are evidence-based ways to get you to where you want to be, the culture you want, the services you want to provide, the employer you want to be. We can help navigate that through strategic planning, executive coaching, employee wellness, assessment work to figure out kind of what might be those barriers. And so we do lots of professional development trainings on culture, organizational health, leadership, and things like that. So we'd love to come and talk to your agencies. I have business cards there on the table or part of a coalition or groups that you guys might have where we can integrate to help you guys do the work that you're wanting to do. So again, thank you for having me. We're going to talk about leading bad apples. We're going to talk about the types of employees that we encounter that just seem to poke us as leaders, as managers, seem to frustrate us to no end, and then avenues that we might have to address those concerns to, again, get us where you want to go. So as we kind of come together today, I want to learn a little bit about what you guys do. So I tried for so long to get cell phones out of rooms that I was presenting in because I hate to look at somebody who's holding their phone and look at you guys are like, I'm not holding my phone. No, you can take that. That's what I, so. Exactly. So I've decided to embrace it. So I use Slido as an engagement tool. So if you guys have access to the internet or are online, pull up your camera and scan the QR code. Feel free to also check your email if you need to after it. See, now nobody will know the difference whether you're participating in the presentation or not. So I just want to learn a little bit. It's not going to make you download an app. It just takes you to a web page to start to join us. It's still going to be in the top corner there. So type in what field of work you guys are in, what roles you play at your agencies. Feel free to type those in and they'll kind of pop up as we come along here. So I'm always interested, my business, I'm not a person who thinks there's a one size fits all. I don't come in with the strategic plan for your business or the therapy approach or the coaching experience for you. Russ and I were just talking about working with individuals who are often the expert in the room. And so I hold the space to help you guys figure out what that looks like for you. So I always like to know a little bit about who we have. So real estate, hospice of Southern Illinois, banking, media arts, lovely. Behavioral coach, nonprofit world. So nonprofit is my background. I was a staff psychologist for a domestic crisis center for about 6 years prior to opening Delve. Recovery community, project coordinator, life coach, engineer, small business, wonderful. Still have a couple people typing there. And so I think this is going to be applicable for you guys in your work, small coffee business, lovely. I'm really liking the range here we have. And barber shop and coffee shop. Is that together? That's pretty neat. Okay. There we go. You guys have already kind of jumped. Somebody's jumping ahead. Look at that, and I'm for it. Me, overachiever. What's the biggest current challenge in your workplace currently? Challenges you guys have. Boss who will not address bad employees. I hope that you brought them with you today. Are they sitting next to you? Staffing, dealing with coworkers, employees. You guys came to the right training. I love this. Bad attitude. Engagement. No accountability. Employees. Keeping a good vibe. Yep, we're going to talk about culture today. Not enough volunteers. Absolutely. We've gotten kind of volunteered and donated out. Ghosting, right? I just need somebody to show up. Please, can I just have a body in the room with me to help me do the work? Got it. No accountability, disconnect from upper management, okay? Excellent. Growing business, communication. Wonderful. So I think we're going to hit on most of these things. I am guilty as a presenter to try to squeeze everything in to one presentation into 40 minutes when it's really a 3-hour presentation or 3-hour content. So bear with me as I try to give you guys as much information as I can. But I'm really passionate about when people give their time to me to learn, I want to give them everything that I can so they can walk away with that. So who here is a bad apple themselves? Who wants to say that they're a bad apple in the room, right? Nobody, right? So, no, okay, there's somebody's like, okay, yep. I have been, exactly, yep. And so often is the case that bad apples don't know that they're bad apples. So give me some descriptions of bad apples. What does that look like in your workforce? I'm assuming with the ghosting, it may mean not showing up, not participating. Exactly, yes. This is the bad apple, no. But we're going to start today's conversation with talking about the different types of bad apples we see, the different types of behaviors that, again, really frustrate us. But I'm not going to talk to you guys as if you are the bad apples. I'm going to talk to you guys as ones who are encountering those people. But also keep that reflection on yourself, right? Because we often tend to forget about that piece of how am I showing up? If I'm running late, like today, that I had no power, didn't do my hair, couldn't make my coffee, couldn't do all the things that I'm used to doing, and then encountered a tree in the road that also delayed me. I showed up thinking I had every logical excuse in the world to be late, right? Other people may not see that. If somebody expected me to be there on time, there's no excuse good enough, right? So we're going to take some time doing some perspective taking as well. Lack of focus, not a team player, unteachable. Yeah, that's a shark music for me right there. Unteachable, poor attitude, negative outlook, not willing to learn new things, inflexible, lack of focus. Wonderful. Yep. So this is what I hear a lot from the businesses I work with. How do I get people to show up with a good attitude, ready to do the hard work, and then they can go home for the day? That's all I need, right? I just need them to be here, be present, maybe put a smile on their face, willing to learn the information, and then get a paycheck. That's all what we're looking for, right, from our staff. So one of the things that I hear a lot is the complainers, this negative attitude. How many people have worked with a complainer before, right? Yep, we have all encountered the complainer. So we're going to talk a little bit about what happens when somebody comes and complains to you. Somebody tell me what they do if somebody comes in their office ready to sit down and complain. What's your approach?
Listen to them.
Listen to them. I'll cover up my slide now. No, that's a good thing. Listen to them. Wonderful. Who else?
Person causes strife.
Causes strife?
Strife, just gossiping and,
Mm-hmm.
and just,
Yep.
just toxic.
I used to be the queen of no eye contact when those people would come in. I'd be sitting at my desk and they'd come in to complain and I'd just be like, mm-hmm, oh gosh, that's awful. Uh-huh, yep, and just if I don't look at, they're gonna go away, right? They've got to go away. I've got things to do. I don't want to hear this. I don't care. I'm not going to be able to do anything about it. Nothing's going to suffice them anyway. That's actually counterintuitive to one of the things that is beneficial in managing the complainer. Okay, so we want to listen. The first thing is we want them to keep going. Tell me more. Completely counterintuitive when you want the complaining to stop, right? To say, please tell me more, right? So this is how we get in our own way sometimes. This is where that great clinical psychology piece comes in. Usually there's a bigger problem. Usually they're coming in to tell you that Susan was late today and they're mad about it. But what they might really be mad about if you keep going is that Susan didn't get her report done and they're dependent on Susan's report to get their task done. All of a sudden we've got maybe something we can work with. Now we've got something that we can maybe find a solution for. So let's figure out what this bigger problem might be. Maybe it's with other people. We're not going to try to criticize. I'm tired of you gossiping. You always have something negative to say. You're just telling me stuff about your coworkers that I don't want to hear. Focus on yourself. You do you, right? Go and you do that. A lot of the times that's what we want. We want to really create a path though. Lay down the path to say, let's walk this out. Because guess what? I don't want to do this again tomorrow. So let's get it all out. So tell me more is the phrase we want to use. Oh, she was late today and nobody told her she was late? Okay, tell me more. How did that impact you? Tell me more. Did any customers see that? Tell me more. How did this work when that happened? So we're not just going to try to get the tip of the iceberg. We're going to get to the root of the problem. Because again, I don't want this to come up again. Third step to kind of bookend this is, what things have you tried for this already? I've told her she's late and I'm tired of it. I've complained to 3 other people that weren't Susan that she's late all the time. Okay, what have you done in the past that has helped this? Have you addressed this in the past? What do you think the answer is? She needs to be fired. Okay, what would that look like? You need Susan here. If we don't ever let Susan come back, then where are you going to be, right? So really helping them get solution focused. So for complainers, get it out, let it out, pull more out of them, encourage it. It's like, bring it on, let's lay it out here, right? Here's the path, lay it down. And then what are we going to do? So some solution focus for our complainers. They're going to give you, sometimes when they first start it, they're going to give you a run for your money. You're going to get more and more and more until it finally runs out, right? There's only so much that you can complain about, especially when we get to this next piece, when nobody's participating with you in the gossiping. So that is a key piece when somebody complains to you. So what's the difference between gossiping and venting? Yes?
Venting would have like, let's get a solution. Gossiping would just be kind of a B-roll of he said, she said.
Yep.
I guess gossiping, you're also pointing to people's weakness and, I don't know, they're more like their character or personality.
Oh, yeah. So an attack, right? Judgment, attack. Yes. And so there's a different feel when we're gossiping, right? I've come encounter with agencies that have a no gossiping policy. Does anybody have one of those at their workplace? Yeah. How are those enforced? Exactly. Somebody let it out. They're not enforced unless they're enforced by the culture, right? The policy on the paper is not going to enforce it, okay? And some of those places that I've been to, the people at the top are the ones who are encouraging that gossiping the most. And I'll give you some examples of that here in a second. I feel like I'm blocking you guys all the time from the PowerPoint here. So venting has a true component of the person who is telling the story. They are the main character in the story. Susan didn't come to work today, and that made me late on my reports. I can't get what I need to do done because of what she's doing. She's included in the story, absolutely a key component, but the take-home message is about how that affected the venter, right? So I am going to allow that to happen in a healthy organization, because what happens if we say, no, stop, there's no room for venting, they go vent to somebody else, right? They go vent to your potential another employer who is, or your competitor, or potential customers about your business, right? And so we want to, again, allow for some of that venting to happen because we want to say, that's frustrating. I'd be frustrated if my team members aren't showing up and pulling their weight. That sounds like it would make me really mad, right? It sounds like you have a reason to be frustrated or disappointed with your team right now. And so allowing them to tell their story in that context and then addressing them and their feedback in the situation is a healthy exchange of frustration. Gossiping is when it is other focused. So when somebody comes to you and wants to tell you that, Joe has been taking all of the supplies out of the supply closet and been taking toilet paper home for the last week. And have you heard that he's, it happens, right? And so he's been taking things out in his bag and just running Joe down. I can't believe he's probably squandering all his money on these things. He's probably gambling. Who knows what he's doing? All of a sudden, like, Joe is just getting attacked, right? Nothing about how does it bother you that Joe's stealing toilet paper right now, right? It probably doesn't in the long run. So at that point, we're starting to gossip. We're telling someone else's story, which we're not involved in. That person isn't in the room. We're not addressing anything in that situation. This is where supervisors get stuck in validating the gossiping. This is where they actually will step in it and say, you know what, Joe's been having a hard time and we've actually written him up 3 times for that before. And so I want you to know that we're doing everything. They just shared all of this stuff about Joe because they came and gossiped about it and then the supervisor met it with more gossip. It may be factual. It doesn't have to be a lie to be gossip, but they met it with more gossip, with a question of how does that affect you? How does that pertain to you? How can I help you in this moment? That starts to shift a culture of no gossiping. But we want to protect our business, our leadership role, our authority in that moment by saying, we've got this covered with Joe. We're doing all of this stuff. You can trust us. You show that in your actions and all of those things outside of that conversation, but in that conversation, when somebody's coming to you venting or gossiping instead of venting, we never want to meet it with more gossiping by validating the gossip, right? Yeah, I know he's been doing that, and we blah, blah, blah. Okay. This is the biggest question that I get. So people will say, yes, complainers are rough. Yes, our gossipers are rough. It's starting to shift to a new generation. I don't even know what generation I'm part of anymore. I can't keep track of Gen Z, Gen Y, millennials. So it's even shifted now to Gen Z, Gen Y, all of the things. But what about this intergenerational gap between I was taught that I need to come to work, I need to work hard, it doesn't matter what type of environment we're in. You're here to do work. You're here to earn a paycheck, earn your paycheck and go home, right? And these millennials, these Gen Xers, these people, these employees aren't doing that, and it frustrates me. So we talk a little bit about, when I give organizational wellness, about intergenerational differences. So who knows the biggest thing that has happened in the last 20, 30 years that has changed our entire culture? Internet, technology, social media, and where is it right now? In the palm of your hand, right? I asked you to use it earlier. It is in the palm of your hand. So this has changed. It's not that we have a bad generation or a bad 3 generations coming up. It is that their generations were raised and developed in a very different environment than most of us were. I don't want to age myself or anybody else in the room, but they also had some different parenting approaches. Who has heard of the participation trophy generation, right? We now know that that is not okay, right? Everybody earning participation trophies actually does not support the winner because they don't get this validation that they actually earned this winning trophy, and the people who came in last are embarrassed by the trophy because they know that it doesn't carry any value. And so we had this push of, we have to include everybody. Everybody has to be on this level playing field. We had people who didn't want to deal with parents for getting their kids into AP classes. And they would say, get my kid into this AP class even though they didn't pass the exam. And the teachers would say, I don't want to deal with those parents anymore. Let them into the class, right? And we know that that's not healthy. We want everybody to have access to good education, all of the unsaid, right? And it's a different generation. It's different values that came up. The other thing that I hear a lot is that they're entitled. They want to come, they want to do the minimal amount of work, and they're just entitled. I argue that the alternative is that they're impatient. So they were raised in a generation that instant gratification was a thing, right? You need food, you get on DoorDash and they shall bring it to you right away. Not where I live, but most places, right? You want love, pick up your phone and swipe right? You don't have to stumble through asking somebody out on a date. You don't have to stumble through some of these things. Just find somebody else and ask them. And so we hear a lot from this generation of, this isn't my dream job. And you say, how long have you been there? And they say 3 months. Oh man, right? Okay, yep, it's gonna take a little bit longer, right? Same thing with true love. And we'll talk about putting in consistency versus just intensity here in a little bit. But this idea of really having to wait through some things to find a passion, to get passion from your work, find your niche, get your education, get your authority, all of those things. It's a journey, right? And so teaching them that is really tricky. So all of this history in these generational gaps, then coming through to an work environment of we're beholden to shareholders. We do mass layoffs. We want you to be vulnerable in the workplace, but we really don't want to hear you complain, gossip, or speak up if we don't agree with you, right? And so it's just this fight. And so they're saying, I don't feel welcome here, I don't feel safe here, I don't feel like I belong here. And so we'll talk about psychological safety here in a little bit about how to make a culture where both generations, all generations, can fit, have a sense of belonging. But I always like to address this piece because most people at the end, there's a hand that goes up about this group of people, right? So in the sake of time, we're going to start to swing towards not just bashing the bad apples and hounding on them, but what does a superstar look like in your agency? And so what we can now do about some of these difficult conversations. So if you need to scan again or pull it back up, what types of things do they display? What does it look like if somebody's thriving in your business, the person you want on your team? So I may have put this where it has to click. Make sure. There, yep. Motivated, focused, willing to try. That's another thing with that generational gap. There have been so many times that trying wasn't acknowledged and validated in a way that was promoting to try again. And so we see that often, that fear of trying. We'll talk about that with psychological safety in the workplace too. Problem solver, relatable, that's a good one. Dedicated and engaged, self-driven, dependable, brings ideas. I love that one, whoever put that one, because you notice that we're not putting quiet up here, right? We're not, I hope nobody was put quiet yet. We're not putting just head down, do what I say, go along with the status quo, don't rock the boat. We're talking about some leading attributes here. Focused, transparent, problem solver, motivated, good listener, brings ideas, committed, dependable, reliable, right? And so we're talking about aspects of a leader here, right? And so really instilling that. But how do you instill that in them if they don't have the ability to communicate with our team in a way that is safe and comfortable. Wonderful. Thank you guys for participating. So that brings us to this types of supervision. How many people here have a manager title? Have a manager level? Yep. Okay. I know in my previous places of work, it was manager. What are some of the things that we think about when we think of managers? What are words that come to mind? Dun, 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 dun. Micromanaging. Anybody get that? Boss. Leader. Okay.
Their way or the highway.
Their way or the highway, right? It's this. Right? Authority. Yep. Okay. So I really try to talk to agencies about having leaders in management positions, whatever your hierarchy is. If somebody is managing a staff member, they have to be a leader. Management does things. They check boxes, they do the task list, they get the things done, they get the reports in, they have the authority to do so. They are the people who work their way up in the agency, who maybe they're a CPA, they're an accountant, okay? They're a really great accountant. They serve all their customers, they do great work, and management leaders say, you shall be promoted. You have done great work, you now need to be promoted and have a team. Teach this team how to do what you do because you do it so well, right? Congratulations. At what point do they get trained on how to teach accounting, right? Those are two very different tasks. Accounting and doing accounting for customers and teaching accountants to be good accountants are two different tasks. And so we often fail our management positions and our leaders by not training them on how to have good boundaries with people who used to be their peers and now they're their boss. How do you navigate that, right? We usually just throw them into the waters, right? And say, figure it out, write their performance evaluation, give them feedback, but never giving them that training. So really investing in leadership through mentor positions and things like that can help us create an environment for successful employees. Because if you have 3 levels of service departments in your agency, you have a CEO, you have management, and you have direct service providers. What is the CEO in charge of? Or this leadership team here? What are they in charge of? The whole business, right? How many times have you guys heard CEOs or executive directors say, I'm in charge of this thing down here. The service we provide, our bottom line, our mission, whatever it is, right? I'm in charge of providing this service. The issue is they skipped over this group of people. So in reality, this group of people are in charge of the service provision. Your people who are serving someone coffee, your accountants who are meeting with the client, they're in charge of the service provision. You have leaders who are in charge of the people who provide the service, who are in charge of the service. So we have to, I'm jumping ahead of myself, but we have to start to look at this perspective of being in charge of the people, right? Of this team. Because we want to skip that and say, I'm in charge of this thing. And so this is where you get micromanagers. This is where you get, I'm going to teach you how to do what I did, exactly how I did it to the T, and if you do it any differently, you're going to be in trouble. There's no way to make that happen. You don't need more clones of you. That is one of the things that when I hear leaders say, I just need more of me, you really don't. It's the whole push for diversity and inclusion, right? You need different voices at the table. You don't just need more of your voice. I see eyebrows raised. Yes. We don't need to hear you talk anymore, please, right? So we need different voices. You need to hear from those people what they're experiencing because they have a different perspective about how things might be going differently. And so creating a culture where you're laying that path to truly hear them, right? Truly hear and understand what that looks like. So true leadership is a culture of empathy, being human, understanding that maybe somebody didn't have power on their way to work that morning, that maybe they have other barriers to getting some of their tasks done, and being curious how to support them in that, okay? Leadership is the position that people follow, the person people follow when they have the freedom not to, right? Authority is following because somebody told you you had to, right? I'm following you because you're my boss, but I do not want to follow you anywhere after 5 o'clock. Believe me, I will be going different places than you. A leader is where we get mentors, right? This is this idea of, I want to know more from you. I want to know more about how you do what you do, how you got to be where you are, how you got to be who you are. And so letting go and allowing them to learn is an extremely hard thing to do as a leader. Think about being a parent, right? Who here has been a parent of a young kid trying to learn how to walk, how to crawl, eat applesauce? My goodness, if I have to watch my 3-year-old try to eat applesauce, I'm like, please just let me feed you. I don't want to see this mess. She has to learn, right? She has to know what it feels like. So we have to, as leaders, have some ability to sit back and coach with our words, but allow them to learn. Because if we come in and do the task, the business is based on just our services at that point. And so that is not something that we really want to do. So there's this great chart that talks about the leaders in an organization that has skills on one side and trust on the other axis. And so people think that the best leaders are people who are really high in the skill, that they can do whatever it is that the business does, right? Accounting, real estate, all of these things, that they have to be high in that skill to be the best leader for that organization. But what we see is the biggest predictor of a good leader in a healthy business is the trust one. Of course, we want both. We want you skilled at your job and to be trustworthy. But the people who are lacking in trust but doing the good job of this actual service, they're the jerk at the agency. You can always find me. You go in, you say, who's the biggest jerk here? And it's usually that person, right? That person is a toxic work leader. That person is toxic for the agency. The person who is going to do better work for the agency is actually lower in the skill of what you guys are providing, but has higher trust. So some of the military talks about skills on protecting each other. So they say, I may trust you with my life. You are very skilled at protecting me, but do I trust you with my money and my wife, right? Those are two very different types of things. And so we really want this trust factor built in here. I'm running late on time here. So empathy is really about showing that there are good people in your work, and that you're ready to listen to them, and you're going to provide a safe place for them to give you feedback. So psychological safety is this idea that they feel comfortable to speak up without repercussions, okay? So what if I would ask you, I would say, how do you care about me cussing? I cuss all the time. Would you care if I cuss in this presentation? What would you say? That's probably not very professional, yep. And I would say, thank goodness, I'm glad you said that, because I really hate to cuss in here and I don't like to not be professional. In that moment, I had a right answer for you and a wrong answer for you. When I said, oh, thank goodness you answered that way, I just created an environment that made it not okay for you to have an opinion, okay? When I ask you a question, you should be able to give me whatever your true opinion is, right? That's not professional. Tone it down, right? If I give you that constant, it's just the random things we say throughout the day like that. Oh, thank God you said that, because I was really nervous you were going to be one of those people who were like, yeah, just let it fly. That's not okay with me. Just in that interaction, we can provide a sense of, wait, what would she have done if I would have said yes? right? That is the sense of not safe in your workplace. And we all have had encounters where we've taken a step back and said, oh gosh, what do they say when I leave the room? If they're telling me this about this person, what do they say when I leave the room? Oh, I answered this way and they were really happy with me. What if I would have answered the other way? All of a sudden, now there's a line to follow, and it gets really tricky on how to be when you're at work. Okay, I'm gonna skip ahead real quick to effective confrontation, okay? Because there's times when you have to have the confrontation, right, with the people who are not doing the tasks that you need to have them do, okay? 3 things need to be present when you have these conversations with people about meeting the needs of the agency. You have to be prepared first. Take time to prepare before you have these conversations with your peers, your managers, your subordinates, anyone who you're going to have this conversation with, and tell them feelings, behaviors, and impact, and you want to be as specific as possible. So instead of saying, I'm tired of you showing up late all the time, I don't think that you're a good fit for our team, and I don't know if you're going to last here. That's not going to fix our problem, right? They're going to say, I'm late. My power was out. There was a tree in my road. Like, you don't care about any of that stuff, right? When you're specific, and they're going to say, I wasn't late to the last meeting. You're going to go, well, most of the time you're late, right? You get in this battle, okay? So be as specific as possible. When you showed up to the meeting late on Thursday, what you did, the behavior, I felt disconnected from you. I felt like I couldn't count on you. I felt like you didn't care about our business. I felt like this project wasn't important to you. I felt like you could care less if you're here or not, right? And then what is the impact if this behavior continues? My concern is if you continue to show up late again and again, I'm going to continue to feel this disconnection to the point where I don't trust you anymore. Think about having to respond to that when you show up late to work one day, right? I'm so sorry. I really am here for you. I really am committed to this business. This thing happened, and what should I do if something like this happens again, right? It starts to be a completely different conversation than just, I'm done with this place. They don't care about me. I'll show up when I can show up. So a lot of our leadership positions are going to support the people we want to stay longer. They're going to stay longer when we have this environment to support them. And the people who aren't going to fit with that culture are actually going to weed themselves out quicker than when they just linger around, right? And so it's a time to be kind of split the pack early on when you have this really great culture that throws in leadership from the very beginning, right? And so understands what employees need from us in order to thrive and succeed and to help us with our mission. So I know I'm keeping you guys a little bit later. And then I have, I think, a last satisfaction rate. But questions for the last 5 minutes? If you guys have to slide out back to the office, please feel free to go. But anybody have questions, concerns, thoughts, specific examples that they have been dealing with at work? Anything? Okay, well, yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking of those like bad apples that are not only bad apples, but they're sort of like spreading, you know.
Yep.
So yeah,
Spread the
yeah,
seeds.
exactly.
Yep.
And not
That's.
starting like,
Yep. If you have the ability to confront that, having that confrontation. I hear that you're talking about these things. So the behavior. So what is the behavior? That they're gossiping with other people, spreading negativity. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've heard and seen when you give them a specific example. When the other day, when you told Sarah, we don't do anything right in this place, it made me feel like you don't believe in our mission at all. And I'm afraid if this continues, a customer is going to hear it. Or the whole team is going to be soured and they're not going to believe in our mission either, right? And so then here they may say, well, I really don't believe in our mission. That may be our time to have this conversation of, we have a culture where we only hire people who truly believe in our mission, right? And so maybe that is something that we have to talk about. But most of the times they may say, well, that was one frustrating day for me. Okay, how do we stop that from happening again? Because it's unacceptable, because if it continues, this is what it's going to lead to, right?
What would you do with the other apples, like that are already contaminated? How do you approach?
Having that same thing. When you engaged in that conversation about us not doing what we say we're going to do, that made me feel that you don't trust your leadership. And if you don't trust our leadership, I'm afraid this might happen. Yep.
At what point would you bring it to like a group?
It's a really tricky situation. Most of the times you want your actions to speak for themselves instead of, because in that group setting, you're going to be the version of the no gossiping policy. I always talk with our mission in mind, and I never make mistakes, and I'm tired of you guys gossiping about it, and I'm tired. You go and you put yourself as present with them as possible, right? And integrate yourself. So you're responsible for the people who are responsible for the task. So you should be spending time with the people. Entrepreneurs, business owners, we have a hard time doing that because we have limited time and limited resources. But if we understand the impact of a healthy culture, we will make time to be present with those employees. Hey, what do you need? Hey, what is going on today? What has been frustrating? Oh, we didn't deliver on this. Let me figure out why this isn't here in the way it's supposed to be, because you need that to do your job. That's the action that speaks to that, rather than I'm going to pull everybody into this lunch meeting and get onto all of you, right? So I avoid having that conversation with the group, because you can't be very specific with each of them. And that's when you get that pushback of, I've never done that. I've only done this way. It's her doing, and you get a gossip session that is not really conducive to that. Good questions. Yep.
So those one-on-one hard conversations like you were talking about versus the group conversations, even if it is a specific group, is that dependent like upon generation? Like, well, what's that look like?
Yep. Tell me more.
Okay. Using your stuff.
Yeah. Practice what I preach.
Yeah, so say you've got a group of individuals who are all doing the same action, attitude,
Yep.
Approach, and it's not conducive to a good environment,
Yeah.
and they all fit within a specific demographic.
Yeah.
Is it still better even to have that one-on-one conversation? Or is it, hey, this is what I see from you guys,
Yep.
this is what I need to see?
Yep. Approaching it with curiosity is your best aspect. And so if you have a relationship with them where there is trust there, where you have high trust, you truly believe that they trust you, then you can have a group conversation in which you say, I can't help but notice that this seems to be the feeling that I get from this behavior, and I'm afraid this is going to be the impact if it continues, and I want to know what's driving some of this behavior. Really coming in with curiosity. Help me know more about what you guys are feeling. Help me know more about what's driving this behavior. Help me figure this out. Really validating. I'm happy we're talking about this. I want to know more. And it may be that you get to the root of the iceberg, that they're like, yeah, we can't do any work in this shared office space. Okay, let's figure out how to stagger times. Or there may be one bad apple that's coming, kind of rallying the troops, and then you might have to go individual. Yep.
I have a question. So when you're around coworkers and they're saying inappropriate things, you know, that would even like kind of in that realm of like sexual harassment, then, you know, it's like peer to peer. Then outside of like tagging running to the manager, then how would you approach that as like a coworker?
Yep.
You know, just kind of stuff.
Yep. It really depends on your personality and your delivery models, but addressing it head on. I'm not comfortable with this. I'm going to remove myself from this situation, and I don't appreciate that. I don't think that it's conducive to X, Y. Using that behavior impact thing. If you continue to have these conversations, I'm gonna start to feel like I'm not welcome in this group right here, because that makes me very uncomfortable. Makes me feel disrespected. It makes me feel like you disrespect other people.
And it's not so much like I'm being sexually harassed, it's just like inappropriate
Yep.
language and
Yep.
conversations, and it's
Yep.
like shop talk. Like,
Exactly.
I feel like I'm in a guy's locker room.
Yep.
Like I'm not supposed to be.
Yes,
You know,
and so some people have a style about them that they can have that conversation pretty casually. I'm a smart aleck at heart, and so I would come at it from a smart aleck point of view of like, guys, I can't listen to this stuff anymore. My ears are gonna fall off. Like, I cannot have this. This is really and then sincere about it. This is really making me feel uncomfortable, and I can't imagine what would happen if somebody else stumbled into this conversation right now. Yep.
How do you lead someone who is excellent at what they want to do, but then they won't do beyond that, right? That the job requires for them to stretch a little bit further,
Yep.
but they focus back on doing just what they think they're excellent at doing, and they are excellent at
Yep.
doing that, but you need them to go.
Yep, curiosity. And so curiosity of what might be that barrier for them, they may not want to. And so so same thing with, not everybody's meant to be a leader, not everybody's meant to be a parent, not everybody's meant to stretch kind of further than some of those things. Maybe getting curious about, is this something that you are striving to do? Is this something that is there for you? Because this position really is geared towards that next step, right? And so then getting really curious about, help me understand, I see this, and be specific with the behavior. This was the task at hand, and here was the comfort level. Here you stayed comfortable. Is it fear of failure? Is it fear of how I might react? Are you afraid of disappointing me? Are you afraid of, and you can give some of those prompts if they're really shut off. But when you create a culture of psychological safety, there's some room for growth, hopefully. Yeah.
Recently, got a job as I'm a project manager, and it's a way different career change than what I was doing. I was a nurse before.
Yes.
Right? And so it's been a hard change, but my executive director put me in charge of team building because of my positive attitude.
Yep.
And so I have a hard time
Yes.
getting other people to engage, right?
Yeah.
And I understand that like misery loves company. And I had a manager at one point in my life that she basically taught me how to be that person, the person that you're describing. She was that person exactly. She was
Yes.
a perfect manager. And so I try to take that approach when we're doing these team building exercises, and I'm
Yep.
the leader of that. But I think that people don't necessarily like my positive approach. Like, how do I get people to be more receptive? I try to be relatable.
Yep.
Like, hey, not every day that I have is a good day. I just choose to be happy.
Yes.
Because that's how I prefer to look at things.
Yes.
So how do I get people to be?
Here's the prime example of, here's a good attitude, lead a group on good attitude, right? Without training and formal kind of education on how to lead a group in team building, right? And so maybe even asking your supervisor for some consultation and coaching on how that can become a skill of yours, if it's a natural thing that you can do, but then how to lead a team on it is one way. Curiosity, probing the team with curiosity. How do you guys feel about being here? I'm really upset that I have to sit in on a team building exercise about positivity today when I just need to get my tasks done. Oh, okay. That might show you some of it may not be the format that they're appreciating. They may not want to go to a group. It may be that they're supported in other ways. That's something we hear from teams all the time. I'm so tired of the Fitbits. I'm so tired of these things. I just want more support from my leadership in knowing what I actually do every day. And so it may be that they want investment in that way rather than groups on team building. But if we have a culture that supports those types of things, it naturally leads to connection with other people. So that's sometimes one of those things that we kind of think, gosh, these are really good intentions to have these groups on team building, but what might be more effective and get to it quicker are these things, are really supporting our team being the most educated they can be to do their tasks, to do things like that. So I'm not saying that's necessarily the case, but if you're having resistance the whole way, it may be that they're not going to participate in that group, even if you have all of the great positive things to give them. They're not willing to accept it because there's all of this other stuff happening. It's tricky. Yep.
Do you feel like, in your experience, that people at the top, the leaders, cast and project the vision enough to their team? Because it's easy to get caught up in the minutia of what you're doing on the daily routine, and you lose sight of, hey, why am I even doing this?
Yes.
So there's got to be alignment between this level and this level. So I'm wondering, is there a breakdown of, hey, here's guys, here's what we're doing,
Yep.
gals, and why we're doing it. Let's keep on track with that.
Yes.
Is that enough?
There is often a breakdown in that not being measurable or applicable. It gets really theoretical of our mission on the wall of honesty and courage and all of those values, but it's not showing them what the behaviors look like at work, right? What does it look like to be a courageous receptionist, right? And so that's where I really empower business leaders to come in and say, when I ask you guys, what does a bad apple look like? If you have values that are leading your agency, start to write down describe that. How would I know if somebody's being courageous right now? How would I know if somebody's serving our mission right now? And then start to share those behaviors with them, model those behaviors so we're not getting so theoretical and being able to communicate that to them. Another thing is at the beginning of your group meetings, reminding people why you do what you do. Showing them the people that they're working for can make a huge difference sometimes. So one study they've done about call operators from universities, call centers calling to get money from people, those have some of the highest turnover rates because they get hung up on, they get joked with, they get all of the things, right? They can see a significant amount of difference in how much money they're bringing in, donations, and their happiness if they bring in the student who got the scholarship that was paid for by the calls, right? By the donations. So, and that can happen once a year or something, just reminding them, this is why we do our work. This is what is leading it to, yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's give a hand to Dr. Brooke Jacobs.
Thank you, guys.
Dr. Brooke is excellent at helping organizations and nonprofits and businesses, and she's a small business owner herself. So if you know of opportunities for her to either come speak at events or look at her business card, go to her website, find out what she does, and use her services. I was surprised that she's around servicing this area. She lives down in Metropolis, so primarily has been in Paducah and Western Kentucky with opportunities there. Now she's looking at opportunities here in Southern Illinois.
Absolutely.
So please tap into that and listen to the podcast. It comes out in June, I think. We did a podcast, Small Town Big Business, so listen for that. You can find out more about Dr. Jacobs and what she does. Did everybody get a ticket today? We're going to have a giveaway.
Ooh.
We've got an EThOs cup and an EThOs mouse pad to give to
Wonderful.
the winner today. Who did not get a ticket? Would you draw for us? And
Of
give that
course.
away? Yep. Go ahead and read the numbers since I don't have my glasses up there.
Can't get my, there we go. Sorry, whoever's ticket I dropped there. 7720254. Yay!
So thank you again for joining us, and please join us next month. One of the topics that you talked about was conversation starters.
Yes.
With that, so Jennifer Olson doing, don't hesitate to start the conversation next month.
Wonderful.
So thank you all for being here. You guys have a great
Thank you,
rest
guys.
of the week. Yep.
I was really excited when you said that. I was like, my very last slide
Yeah.
is going to chain link directly to that. So.